So for some people, their best partner on the trail is often their dog. And that's what we want to talk about this week. Christy and I have a dog that we've taken on a few outings, and she always enjoys it, probably more than we do, because, you know, living her life as a house dog, she doesn't get to get out and smell all those things that you can smell on the trail and, you know, get to experience all those fun mud puddles or whatever that we run across when we go out there.
But we've had to stop taking her on long hikes because she's older. She's 14 and a half. So she's in her senior years, and the distances she used to be able to travel, she can't travel any longer.
Yeah.
And that's an important thing to know when you're taking an animal on the trail. Are they ready for it? Can they handle it? And I know it's easy to see your pet and go, oh, they can. And I've done that with Tansy. She's run with me since I first got her. And over the years, she's slowed down a little bit. But the last long hike we had her on, I thought she was still up for it because she was regularly walking some distance. She was still running actively with me.
And we were going on a fairly flat trail. There was not much up and down anywhere, and totally expected she would be fine with it. Yeah. But honestly, the hike out, I was nervous. I thought, you know, I probably won't get to take her on another hike again.
No,
and we didn't.
No, the first night we camped, and it was a one-night trip. We knew that, you know, she was still loving everything, and she was doing well, and she was healthy, but she was slowing down. And
the next morning, she did not want to get out of bed. She was real stiff. It took her a long time to get up and stretch out, and she was just very sluggish on the walk out. And we knew that was the last big trip that she was going to get to go on. We've taken her, you know, on the trail here around the house a few times, but no more overnighters, no more long distances or anything like that. And that's something that you have to ask yourself if you're going to take your dog out on the trail is, you know, can the dog make it? Most young dogs and old dogs just don't have the stamina to be able to do any of those major mileages, and, you know, they don't handle the weather quite as well. And, you know, there's a lot of considerations that you have if you're going to do something more than just a simple day hike.
I do think it's sometimes hard to make that judgment call yourself. For instance, the time we took Tansy on her last long hike, I thought she was absolutely still up for it. I thought she was still active enough and in good enough shape to do it. And she did do it, but it was hard on her. So first step, just go to the vet and talk with them. Hey, I'm planning this trip. It's going to be this sort of terrain. It's this length. It's, you know, this many miles per day, and get their opinion, because sometimes you think your dog is ready for more than maybe your dog actually is.
Yeah. And when it comes to a young dog, you might want to do the same thing. You know, you talk to your vet, but also too, take them on several day hikes, go around the park system or something like that. Make sure that they actually enjoy it. Most dogs are going to enjoy it, but make sure that it's something that they enjoy and something that you actually enjoy doing with your animal.
It's also important to make sure that your pet is trained. Now, that doesn't mean they, you know, have to roll over and do tricks, but they have some basic commands and they listen well. And if you have a trained dog, it might be time to just refresh that training just a little bit to make sure they're ready on the trail, because listening at home and listening when you can smell deer and maybe hear squirrels and there's all that activity in the woods, that can be really, really distracting. So giving your animal just a little training refresher is also important.
Yeah, and you need to know how your dog is going to react to seeing other animals, whether they're somebody else's dog or whether it's a deer that just springs up out of nowhere. That's why it's a really good idea to do some day hikes in some, you know, wilderness areas where they can get a feel for it, and you know how they're going to react, so that if you see another dog coming, our dog doesn't do well with other dogs, so we always have to make sure that, you know, she's on a leash and that, you know, you tighten up that leash just a little bit so there's, you know, you reduce those chances of a bad encounter.
If you have a dog that's really a hunter, then you'll want to be aware of that and take precautions. And, you know, we've talked about this before. I believe in dogs in the wilderness on leashes.
Without a doubt.
There was a terrible video recently that was on social media, and it was a dog off leash climbing a mountain.
Chasing mountain goats.
was off leash, chased mountain goats, and literally fell to his death. It was horrifying. And that doesn't happen every day and likely won't happen to your dog.
But it could.
But it could. And so it's good to really honestly and completely know your dog and, let them be on leash. My dog goes off leash if we're near water because she loves water. However, she's also a chicken. So she loves shallow water that she can prance around in. But if it gets too high, on her chest, she's not interested. So I can keep her in the shallows, she can prance around, and we're all safe. That's when she can be off leash. But when we're on a trail, she's not dependable enough to be off leash because no matter her training, if there's a deer or a bunny, she's after it. So I know her, I adjust for it.
Something else that we've talked about in past podcasts is the whole cleaning up after your dog. When you hit the trail and you take this animal with you, you're responsible for it. So you need to make sure that you're prepared to pick up the poop and dispose of it properly. On these long distance hikes, you treat your animal just like you would a small person. You make sure that you dig them a cat hole and you make sure that the proper precautions are taken, or you can pack it up and pack it out. No matter what, though, it is your responsibility to take care of this animal, and you need to plan accordingly. So, whenever you're getting ready for these trips, planning it for your animal, you need to plan for it just like you would for yourself. You need to take into consideration all of the things that you would go through in a normal day, whether it's going to the bathroom or whether it's eating or drinking. You need to make sure that you have ample food packed for them. You need to make sure that you've planned your route accordingly so that you can make sure that they stay hydrated, and, pack a collapsible bowl or something for them to be able to drink out of. And another thing that you want to really pay attention to is some dogs, if they're not used to being in the wilderness, they don't have the same immune system that the animals out there already have. So they can't just walk up to any stream and drink, or ponds or whatever. You definitely want to avoid stagnant water, and you really need to be cautious about the water sources that they drink from.
Well, you need to be prepared that they're going to drink the same water you do. So you need to either pack water that they're going to have, or if you filter water, they drink it. Now, you're not going to stop my dog from drinking out of a river or a pond we come to. She's going to do it. I don't really worry about that so much, but
it is something that you should consider, because you could get back there and they have a bad reaction to something that they've eaten or drank on the trail. And, that brings me to another point is you need to have them a first aid kit just like you do for yourself. And you need to be able to handle any kind of a situation that you run across. So if your dog gets bitten by a snake or gets injured somehow by, heaven forbid, a broken bone or something like that, you need to be prepared for that just like you would for yourself or any other person that's in your group.
And you really, to circle back, you do need to bring everything they need. So a collapsible water bowl, you need to make arrangements for water. They're going to drink out of a stream. They're just going to. But if you're not coming along any streams, you need to make sure you have water so they can get adequate water also. And you need to make sure you have a bed for them.
Yeah, just like you want to insulate yourself from the ground and be able to have a blanket or something to throw over yourself. I know when we took Tansy on her last hike, I packed in this gigantic animal print pillow that she slept on, and she had this cute little sweater that she wore. She was the wilderness princess for that night.
She was, and that pillow is her bed. It's a dog bed. It's very light, but it's very insulated. We sleep in hammocks, so a hammock wasn't the best fit for her for so many reasons. And so she slept actually beneath my hammock on her bed in her little sweater. And we, of course, have a tarp over us.
Also, while you're out there, pay attention to your dog's feet. Depending on the terrain that you're walking on, they could definitely get injured really easy, especially if you have an animal like Tansy, for instance. She doesn't go outside much, and so therefore her feet aren't as tough as what?
She goes outside every single day. She gets a walk morning and night.
She does, but it's a very
They're short walks now just because of her age, but the girl's
Don't
tough.
give me that look.
The girl is tough.
Still, you need to keep an eye on their feet because they could get damaged really easy.
Absolutely.
Hot sand if you're on a beach area, or, if you're on really rocky terrain, these gravels and stuff can be very tough on their feet. She walks in a very controlled environment. So yes, she does get out a lot, but not out in the wilderness a lot. That's the point I was trying to make. Don't give me the face.
Okay, I'll go with that. But you need to just be hyper aware of them. It's like taking a small child with you.
Definitely.
You've got to be the eyes and ears. You've got to be on alert for anything that could hurt them. You're there to keep them safe and well. And you want to make sure that you're not going out. You might love winter hikes, but that may not be the best for your dog. You may love really hot summer hikes. Again, probably not the best for your dog. You want to make sure that your terrain and the weather are milder and more accommodating if you're going to take your animal along. And you can still go on those other hikes that maybe they just don't get to go with you on those. Rain. Poor Tansy has been in rainy hikes, and she's such a little trooper, but that's not fun for anyone. No. And, we're lucky because she's small. So if we have to,
you can pick her up and
it's not
her out.
It's not super comfortable because she's, a 25-pound dog. So it's not like she's light, but you can scoop her up. If you have a lab or a larger dog and they're in a situation where they're uncomfortable, you can't. No. So you really want to make sure you're making all the choices about the hiking terrain, the things you're bringing, how long you're going. You're doing everything to accommodate your dog. The hike your dog comes on is your dog's hike, and you're along for the ride. If you want to plan a hike for yourself, you probably shouldn't take the dog.
That's very well said. When you bring an animal, you're on their hike. You really do have to put them at the top of the list. And, some things that a lot of people don't think about ahead of time, but they probably should, is you need to be even more hyper vigilant about watching for things like snakes, or if you're in the desert, or, somewhere where there might be scorpions or something like that, anything that could injure them. They're curious. Animals, dogs are going to want to go over and check things out, and it could be really easy for something to go bad really quick. Same thing with plants. Our cats and dogs both, if they see something green that's new, they want to go over and chew on it. You don't want them going over and rolling around in a bunch of poison ivy, and then they come back and roll over you, and then both of you end up with poison ivy, or other plants out there that they may not be used to. Their digestive system's not going to be used to. The next thing you know, you've got a dog that's a mile or two away from anything, and they're throwing up. You need to be prepared to handle these kind of situations.
But I think, when all is said and done, sure, there are plenty of checklists. You can Google them. You're going to find them. What should I do if I'm bringing my pet along? And there's great advice out there on the web. But I think it all comes down to knowing your dog, honestly knowing your dog, and choosing slower hikes, smaller hikes, shorter hikes that your animal can love and you can love too. And you can have great times together, and you can both stay safe if you're just really cognizant of their comfort, their abilities, and plan a smart trip.
Plan accordingly, by all means.
Yeah.
So, as much fun as you can have bringing your dog along. It could, some people could even call it therapeutic. I read an article not too long ago about another form of therapy that is really becoming big in the hiking world, and that's called forest bathing. And come to find out, the time that I took a bath in a beaver pond on a deer hunt doesn't qualify as forest bathing. I thought I was going to learn some tricks about how to not stink while I go hunting. But come to find out, it's actually about getting out on the trail, getting in touch with nature, turning that phone off, disconnecting from electronics and the world, and just getting out there and getting back to nature.
And I think there's a lot of value in getting into nature and exploring the wild places in this country and in the world. There are beautiful places and it's worth getting out. I don't think we need a little buzzy phrase like forest bathing, but how about just get outside when you can? It's sort of like the Michael Pollan prescription for eating well. Eat, what is it? Eat vegetables, not too many, something else. Well, I can't even remember the whole thing. Sorry, Michael Pollan. But it's like that. Get outside when you can. Enjoy.
Yeah.
I don't think we need a name for it. I don't think we need a prescription for it.
Yeah. I once had planned to write a fitness book. It was called Get Off Your Ass and Stop Eating So Much. I think it would have sold bukus of copies. What do you think?
No, it wouldn't have sold any.
Really?
No, that's not the advice anyone wants. We all want
a magic pill.
Exactly. And that's what I think this forest bathing idea is, that it's a magic pill that's suddenly going to erase all of our stress. And I don't think that's true. But I do think going outside can be lovely and it can be relaxing. It can also be stressful. But if it's something that makes you feel better and makes you happy, then create time to go outside. And if you haven't been able to, maybe you can plan something for this fall and winter. Maybe you can create a new after Thanksgiving tradition instead of maybe if your family goes to the movies or you sit around and watch football. You just sleep.
Take my belt off, or I'm thinking about just moving to stretchy pants only.
Yeah. So if that's your tradition, take your stretchy pants and go outside for maybe an hour, or
take a nap.
No, we're trying to get people active and doing things that are beneficial.
Go in the woods and take a nap.
Still missing the point. But, if you can create a tradition and create space in your life to go outdoors, you don't need books to tell you it's important. You don't need articles to give it a name. If you love the outdoors, if being outside makes you feel good, find some time in your day, your week, your month where you can do that.
And by the way, the quote was Michael Pollan, eat food, not too much, mostly plants.
Okay. Well, I butchered it completely.
Yeah. I hope he doesn't listen to the podcast and give us a bad review.
He's probably outside forest bathing right now and too busy to.
Well, speaking of reviews, we would love to have you give us a good review if you're loving the podcast. Let us know how you feel. Give us some love. That does it this week. And be sure to tune in next week when we're going to tell you some more wonderful things to get you off your ass and moving around a little more in the woods.